What would you get if you combined a Mac Pro, a 13-inch iPad, a world-class amp modeler, AI technology that drives the sound, a 2.1 hi-fi stereo system, virtual immersive online lessons, third-party app capabilities, and more? Well, you would probably get this, the Lava Studio. And that's what we're going to be checking out in today's video. So before we dive into this video, I want to let you guys know I did take the time to break this down into chapters. So if you want to jump around and go to a certain section, you definitely can do that in the description below. I'm very excited about today's video. We are checking out the Lava Studio. It's one of the world's most technically advanced tabletop amps. First thing you're going to see when you open this up is this 13-inch touchscreen. Now this is a full HD touchscreen, 13 inches, and it has an 80-degree tilt that you could take advantage of here. So if you have it up high like I do now, you probably want to pull that all the way out. But if you have it lower and you're jamming with friends and you want to treat it more like a guitar amp or like a Fender Twin Reverb where you have your knobs on top, you can do that too. Now starting off with the front, this grill here, which looks like a Mac Pro, I think it looks awesome, is actually where your speakers are, the 2.1 system. It is a hi-fi 2.1 stereo system that has capabilities with stuff like spatial audio and Bluetooth connectivity. Now, right above that, you are going to have your input cable. This is your 1/4-inch instrument in. You have a headphone jack in the front. If you guys want to do silent practice, you could definitely do that with this. So spinning around to the back, you do have your sub port here, and it is using a carbon fiber woofer. We do have your power input, a USB-C input, which you can connect to your computer and have additional benefits like using their software or using it with a DAW. And then you do have a stereo out. It could be mono or stereo. For today's demo, I am doing stereo and I'm panning hard left and hard right. You do get a nice Lava logo on the side. This entire unit is made of aluminum, very high quality. Like I mentioned, it very much reminds me of an Apple product. On the right side here, you do have your power button and you have a volume knob. So pretty much every other setting you're going to change on this system will be taking place on the touchpad, aside from just volume and turning the thing on. It is worth noting if you press this once, it does put the display to sleep. But a long press will turn it on or turn it off. And the cool thing is it lets you choose what you want to do, if you want to shut it down or restart it. So that's the ins and outs. And again, this stand is really high quality too. It is also aluminum. All right, so let's dive into the actual demo of the Lava Studio. So first thing we're gonna do is I have my guitar plugged into the instrument in on the front. Press and hold the power button here. We're gonna let the Lava Studio power up. We see the Lava Music logo, that's what we wanna see. For this demo, I will be using the Vola JZ-FRO in this awesome copper sparkle finish. All right, the Lava Studio is now powered up. Now the way you know it's ready to go is you will see the amp picture render. And I have the guitar plugged in, so let's take a listen. So first, let's go over some of the basics. Now, the bottom down here is going to be your quick jump menu. If you press the far left, it goes into music mode. So if you want to connect your phone through Bluetooth or use some of the third-party apps, you get a cool background here. If you press and hold, you can actually change your background. So if you click on sounds, this is going to be where all of the editing takes place for the guitar sounds, all the amp sims, the effects, pretty much everything is located in the sounds tab here. When you're on this screen though, the top left, you do get a tuner. So once you're in tuning mode, works like a basic tuner. It does mute the guitar, but hit any open string and you're gonna wanna make sure that it's right in the green area there. That means you're in tune. Next to that is your metronome. So there is a built-in metronome, so if you're doing lessons or if you want to practice scales, stuff like that, you can set your BPM here manually. So once you can set that manually, I don't know, let's go to like 85. You click the play button. So those are the two menu options up top. Now next to the sounds, we're going to dive into the sounds in 1 second here. There's the Lava Plus area. So this is going to be like your grooves, your backing tracks, your loops. You can just start jamming in any key you want. You could browse through here, there's different styles. Then you have your loop library, which you could build your own personal loops and you could share them on the Lava Plus app too, which is really cool. Then you have your respond improvs. If you guys have the Lava Me, it's kind of the same thing. Basically, someone does a few licks and then it's your turn. You kind of go back and forth, which is awesome. Then you have your lessons in here. All kinds of different lessons you can choose from, anywhere from beginner to advanced. There's also improvs that under the lesson section here, where you can basically jam with an instructor real time, which is cool. There's collections, so if you want to filter it by collection or genre, you can do that. And you can also filter by instructors. So below that is your feed, so whenever someone publishes a new loop or like a new respond track or a new open jam track, they're gonna be published here. And then finally, there is your post. So this is just the stuff that you're creating. Now, the other tab here is the mini DAW. So this is going to be basically like your mini recording studio. You can do up to 10 tracks, I believe, up to 5 minutes. So this is great for demos, ideas. If you're jamming with a friend, you can do it all in here. And finally, there's the more tab. This is gonna be your Lava Cloud files. It's gonna be your updates. So if you need to update the system, and it's gonna be your third-party apps. There's Apple Music, YouTube, and Spotify. That's huge. If you're in like a cover band, you can create a playlist in Apple Music, play the playlist, and actually jam along with it, which I'll do a demo later on in this video. All right, so what we're gonna do now is let's build a preset. There's a bunch of options. You can edit these if you want, but I think it's best if we just create a brand new one. So let's click on the new button up top. Now, here's the landscape you get with your chain signal. So you get 3 effects in the front, you get a lava amp, a cab, and then 3 effects behind the cab. So let's start off with the amp. And there's some settings you can go into to smart pair a cab with the amp. So for example, if I choose the 5150 model on here, it will automatically link this cab to it, which I guess would be best suited for this model. So let's hear what this sounds like. So those are the basic controls here, but you can also click this advanced button and you're gonna have a high shelf button you could turn on and off. And it kind of gives you a little more control over the amp. It depends on which amp model you're using. There's a lot more options, but it smart paired this cab here. But if I wanted to change my cab, you just click the switch button and there's all kinds of cabs in here that you can choose from. I dig that one. I think that's a Marshall emulated cab there. So we got our amp, we got our cab. So let's add some stuff in the front. I like to always start my signal chain if there's any kind of high gain associated with it with a gate. So let's go to the gate category here. There's a noise gate invader, and a smart gate. So right away, you heard that noise just disappeared. Works pretty good. Let's check this one out. That one works really good. Let's go with the invader. After that, I'm going to go ahead and put a drive in front. Let's do the tube 808. That's usually pretty good for like thrash and stuff like that. And I like to add a little delay to everything I do, because that's just how I am. Analog delay. All right, and then let's add just a little reverb. So let's go to reverb. And let's do room reverb. That sounds really cool, and I'm using like P90 pickups on that too. It's pretty wild. So if you like what you just created, so that's what I just created, go ahead and click the X. And it's gonna show up as new preset on here. And we're gonna call this one, basically 5150, so let me call it 5150 plus FX, save. There's some other things you can do here, like you can change the color of it. So if you click rename, if you click the icon up top, I mean, you can go between the colors. Let's do green. Make it an alien, click save. But just so you know, let's go check out some of the amp models on here. Basically for the electric, you get a 5150 model, you get an Engel model, a bunch of Fender models on here. This one is an FM Duval, another Fender. You get a bunch of Marshalls, so basically your JCM 800, 900, 50, all that stuff. Bunch of Mesa models on here. This one looks like John Petrucci's model, that's pretty cool. You get one orange model, which would be great for like stoner rock, doom, stuff like that. Paul Reed Smith model, you get the Roland Jazz model on here. A rhythm, a bunch of Victory emulated amps. And then you get your Vox, obviously AC30, and then there's another one on here. But there's about 30 amps to start with, and there are some acoustic amps and bass amps. Let's go to loops though. Let's create a loop. I want to create something to share with the Lava Plus community. Let's choose a backing track first. It's classic blues. All right, I like this one. Sweet Girl O' Mine. I wonder what this is supposed to be like. You click the use button on here. Now let's start building a loop that we can share with people. All right, so here is your loop screen. If you guys have the Lava Me, it's gonna look pretty familiar. Basically, you get these rings that you can build upon. So if you wanna expand it to 10 tracks, I think it goes up to 10 tracks on here, or 8 tracks. You can. We're gonna do something simple with just 4 on top of the bass beat. Here are your options. You can click record, play. If you want to figure out what the beat is and jam to it, you can. So let's go ahead and record the first part of the loop here. You click the record button. Something like that. So let's record a second track on here now. But I can do that a little cleaner. So let's say I'm not happy with it. Click the delete button there. Now I can redo it. So let's redo it. I'm gonna choose a different sound now. So I want a little more delay, and I wanna do some like Alice in Chains type leads over this. So something like that. Let's try this. All right, that was way too loud, but here's the cool thing. Click the little volume icon here. Here's track 3. This is what I just recorded. Press the minus button. We can turn it down in the mix. All right, so there's the track I just created. Again, you could change the colors if you want. Let's go with rainbow. All right, so let's check out the mini DAW. So let's do a new project. The cool thing about the mini DAW is it's basically like a mobile recording studio built into this. So anywhere you bring this, you can do up to 10 tracks, up to 5 minutes per track. If you want to write with your band, jam, create ideas, you can do it in here. You can start a blank project, import a groove, import a backing track, or import from Lava Cloud. And there's also this crazy AI stem capability. So let's say you have a song from your band you already know and you want to use this to like rehearse. You can upload it to the Lava Cloud. It'll then take apart the musical instruments and like isolate the guitar, the drums, the bass. You can mute those, separate them, and then jam and re-record with it, which is pretty sweet. Let's just do a backing track. So let's import a backing track. Let's do this slow rock here. Let's click use. And this will be track 1. Let's just rename this. Let's call this backing track. Let's just call it backing. Done. And then let's go ahead and add a track. This will be my guitar. So let's call this one guitar. Guitar, click done. All right, so I have guitar selected. If you click record, it'll then go right into this guitar track I'm gonna record, but let's change my patch. So I'm ready to record. It'll give me a 4 count in and I can start laying down some tracks. A little sloppy, but hey, we get the idea. Let's hear what it sounds like back. You can adjust your levels here. You can add up to 10 tracks on here. You can start with the groove, start with the drum beat, whatever you want, or do everything all on your own. And within the actual track settings, you can export this to the Lava Cloud as like a WAV or an MP3, share it with your bandmates, collab, do whatever you need to. So pretty cool, it has a built-in DAW. Finally, let's check out the last section in here. It's called More. Check out Apple Music. So let's say I'm practicing for a gig and I need to jam to stuff that's already out there on Apple Music. So let's take my band, for example, I recorded with called Sojourners. So I think the music's a little too loud. All you have to do is click on Settings, go to More Settings, and you go to Sounds. There's their master volume there, click Advanced, and here's your instrument input gain and your media volume. Let's turn the media down a little bit, because that was a little bit too loud, and let's see if that's better now. So basically, you can jam with any of your songs, you can adjust the levels, and you don't even need to connect your phone. Everything's built in. They have Spotify and also YouTube, so if you wanted to find a YouTube video and jam along to it, or do lessons on YouTube, you can do it that way too. And finally, if you just want to use this as a Bluetooth speaker in your office when you're not ready to jam or edit your sounds, you can also use those third-party apps or connect to it via Bluetooth to just use this as a hi-fi speaker. This can replicate spatial audio. However, I don't think it sounds that great with the amp models. Most amp models you're gonna want either left and right, not necessarily like 3D sound. Maybe for like clean acoustic sounds, it might sound great, but for the heavier amps, I definitely recommend turning off spatial audio. You also get a global EQ. This is what my EQ looks like now. But if you're, going to front of house using this and you don't like how it sounds, if you want to tame some of the harshness down, you can use this EQ here. All right, guys, so let's get to my final thoughts and feedback. I know I went in depth showing you what this thing is capable of, but I really, really love this amp. Now, what's really cool about this is if you're a gigging musician and you have a home studio or a home office where you typically practice and you don't want to get out a huge guitar amp, you don't want to plug into your computer, turn on sounds and edit and do all that. You can do everything basically in this one unit, especially for practice. If you want to get better at guitar, there's lessons built into it. The jam tracks are going to instantly make you a better guitar player. It'll teach you improvisation, but also like I mentioned and showed in the demo, if like you're in a band that has an album out and you want to practice before a gig, all you have to do is load up Apple Music and jam along to it. You get full control of it. So this is in the early stages of development. You guys can back it using the Kickstarter link below. It will have more amps as time goes on. Currently there's about 30 amps in here and cabs. There's gonna be more capabilities that are added to this. If you guys have seen any of my Fender ToneMaster Pro videos, that is a great example of how this tech evolves over time. If you guys were at the floor level of the Fender ToneMaster Pro, it had half the amps that it has now and half the capabilities it has now. So this is a great system to build off of. A huge shout out to Lava Music for sending it into the channel for a review. Until next time, I'm Michael. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.